Okay, did you figure out what this is? Do you want to say it or do you want to sing it? Sing it. Wise people foresee trouble coming and avoid it. I'm in your way, sorry. Wise people foresee trouble coming and avoid it, but foolish people keep going and suffer. But foolish people keep going and suffer. Proverbs 22 verse 3. Proverbs 22 verse 3. Okay, this afternoon, sorry I didn't announce the time and intent earlier today. I should have done that at the end of church. However, here we are, and most everybody's here, so I think we made the trip all right. I've called this a hike, for lack of a better term. That's really not a good description, okay? We are not hiking anywhere as far as destination is concerned. And a good share of the time we'll be in here and around here doing other activities as well. So, you know, it's sort of like hike. I want you in hike mode for this. So that's the main reason I called it hike. And it is also a wilderness survival overview. That's kind of the main thing this is. And what we do here actually should happen after the talk on Tuesday morning. But, you know, it's just the way things work out. And so we'll have to refer back and forth a little bit. Need to start out with a list. Yeah, this pen's starting to lose it. Let me get a better one.
Do you guys was strongest stand?
No, that was here.
Oh, okay. That's what you need. But you not order.
We were going to screw it to the post, but then it was back, so.
There is a list of 5 things. We call these the survival priorities. Okay, these are the things, not counting air, that we need in order to keep ourselves alive. And they're listed in order of importance because this is a priority list. What's on the list?
Water.
Water. Number 2. Shelter is 1. Food's number 5.
Air doesn't count.
Yeah, air is like above and beyond this, as is prayer and those things. Fire's number 4. Number 3, we don't think about it too much, but it's very important still. I call it, for lack of a better term, health concerns.
Which is?
Health concerns are things like safety, sanitation, and hygiene. All those kind of practices that keep us safe and healthy, that if we don't do, we're going to get into trouble. Let me tell you why they're in this particular order. Within hours, you're going to want shelter from something. Okay, like right now, we're under shelter, like in case it rains. We could get into tomorrow without water. We can go a couple weeks without food. Might not feel real good about it, but we'll live. Health concerns, kind of umbrellas over all of them. You always want to stay safe and healthy. Okay, even under normal situation, whatever that is for you. If you get sick or injured, your situation just got really worse. And for sure you wouldn't want that to happen in a survival situation. Fire, also kind of umbrellas over all of them. Might want fire in connection with your shelter for light and or heat. Fire to boil water to purify it. Fire to cook food, and so on. Okay? I'm going to stand in front of it. Well, no, let's say them together. then I'll stand in front of them. Shelter, water, health concerns, fire, food. Strongly recommend you memorize the list. Okay, let's say it again. Shelter, water, health concerns, fire, food. Okay, our activities this afternoon are based on these priorities. We won't be tackling them necessarily in this particular order, and some of them we won't do anything with. I'm saving that for another class. Okay, but some of these things we will address here. Again, not necessarily in order, but just understand that the ones that, anyway, we're just doing it the best way it works out. And I keep forgetting. We have a email list here. If you're interested in giving us your email, I'm going to pass this around. Put your name and your email address. During the course of you might want to look at this again towards the end of the program, but some people are leaving like after today, and so that's why I'm bringing this out now. During the course of the program, I will say different things that I will send you, okay? And please, like, write down what those things are in the margin here so that I don't forget what to send you, okay? So I'll just do this, get that started. Should have done that first thing, sorry, because we're about ready to move. Let me check my cheat sheet here. Okay, so we're going to go walk around a little bit. The primary goal for our walk is to look at some plants. We're not going very far at all, so don't worry about that. Regardless of what kind of shoes you have on, you should be all right, and so on. The other thing that we're going to do as we work through our various activities this afternoon, is I want to come up with another list, okay, of actual equipment items that we want to be sure and have in our packs. Now, having said that, I need to let you know this particular pack that I'm going to be working out of this afternoon, this is my demonstration pack. I actually have like 3 packs. I have a pack that is my main grab-and-go pack. Okay, that pretty much stays in my vehicle all the time. I have this one, my demonstration pack, which I have like extra items for the group if we're doing an activity, or particular things that I want to show the group, but there's representatives of all the things we're going to be talking about in here, one way or another. My third pack is like my Sabbath afternoon pack, where I want something just lightweight that I'm willing to carry on a Sabbath afternoon hike that's just, you know, anticipated to be a Sabbath afternoon length. So, anyway, this isn't my main pack, but this is my demonstration pack. I know there was something else. So we're working on a list, and the reason, part of my reasoning behind doing what we're doing is over the years, okay, we have taken a lot of people on their first overnight wilderness trip. And very early on, we noticed a definite pattern. On their first overnight wilderness trip, people typically, number one, don't bring the things they really do need. And number two, bring a lot of stuff that they don't need. Now, if you want to bring a lot of stuff you don't need and pack that around, that's your business, okay? But if I'm in charge of the group, from my perspective, you need to have the things that you really do need. Because otherwise, you have to borrow it from somebody else. I mean, it's a liability to the group, okay? So I've thought, you know, a lot about how can I get across the message of what people actually do need, so that at least bring those things. And this program this afternoon is kind of what's come out of that. This program, just over the course of things, it's very flexible, and it's taken a lot of different courses, I guess, over time and depending on the circumstances. We're adapting it to what we have available here. Ideally, this would be like a hike that we actually go on. But a lot of you aren't in hiking clothes and maybe, trying to, anyway, that isn't going to work for this afternoon. So we're going to be in and out of this area. I want to illustrate a way of thinking as much as anything else, okay, with what we do. And that is, as we go along, we'll talk about different needs that we have, and then we need to think about, okay, if we have this need, what are we going to need in order to fulfill that need? And in order to do this, and what equipment are we going to actually need to have? And so we're working on putting together a list of equipment, which we'll come back and do at the end of the afternoon. We'll actually put up a list of equipment here and talk about that a little bit more.
I don't want you to get bit by it. It went right under where your hand is. You're right. Maybe it. Okay.
I'll send him on his way.
Yeah. Ticker.
Go on. Okay.
Sorry. Interrupt.
All right. So is everybody ready to go, or you're just all settled in real nicely, huh?
Yeah. Are you going to give us?
Taking notes. I don't have any handouts for this particular one, other than like what we put on the board. Make sure you get that. The other stuff, yeah.
Are you going to give us a list of what's in the pack? I thought you were going to give us a list.
We will do that at the end. Before we start, the main goal for the first part of this is we're going to look at plants that are both edible and useful. And something, I used to have to say this at the beginning. It's easier to do it now while I have all your attention. I've taken groups out on plant walks, and I'm pointing out this is edible, you can use this plant for this, and so on. And too often, I've turned around and looked at the group, and here's somebody just grabbing and eating everything. And that's made me realize that in some people's thinking, there is one category. Okay, it is called plants and weeds, or whatever, grass and weeds, whatever you might call it. But there's like one category for all of this. It's trees and bushes, whatever. And so I start showing people things that they can eat, and they think, oh, grass and weeds are edible, and they just start eating them all. Because in their thinking, it's just one category. Okay, I've even had as I've mentioned this, I've had adults admit, yeah, that's me. Okay. So if that's you, and even if it's not, maybe you're a couple things ahead of that. Before you start going out on your own, okay, take some time and learn the individuality in plants. Okay, there's literally thousands of different species out here. They are all different. Some of them are edible, some of them are poisonous. You can't just eat them all. Okay, learn how to identify individuality. And we're going to be giving you a few tools to do that with, but not extensively. This isn't a botany class. So that's something you're going to need to pursue on your own. So before you go out on your own and, eating wild edibles, learn to identify individuality in the plant world. It's not just all one category.
Don't eat anything you don't know what it is.
Yeah, my rule, is if I don't know for sure that it's edible, don't eat it. Okay? Yes, hand up.
Well, I recently went to a similar class, and the other thing is, it may be okay for somebody else, but not for you. For your metabolism.
Yeah.
Try a little bit.
Well, that's the case with.
Once you identify.
That's the case with regular foods. Okay. Yeah, they got on me after church saying I didn't repeat the questions. I need to repeat the questions more. So remind me to do that. She was asking, this, or making the comment that some plants are good for some people but might not be good for others. And yeah, that's the case with regular foods. So, I mean, for sure it's the case out here too. Okay, we're gonna get ready to walk. So, yeah.
Question for you.
Question.
It's this verse in the Bible that say if you're on the housetop, don't go down, or in the field, don't. If you're out in the field and you're backpacking the house, what would you do? Would you?
We got a whole talk. Tonight's talk is about that verse.
All right.
So I'm going to save that.
Good.
Okay. All right. Yes.
Are more plants edible than not?
Oh.
Or not edible?
Let's say we have all representative of all the plants in the world line up like this. Okay, the question was, are there more plants edible than not? Let's just line up all the representatives of all the plants in the world. Okay, there's going to be a section of them about here that are edible. Down here at the other end, there's a little section like this that are poisonous. Okay, all these other ones in the middle,
Might make you sick.
you can eat them, but they're not going to hurt you. They're not really what you would want to eat, okay? And so it's been proposed that we learn these guys, and that'll at least keep us out of trouble. Okay, pick this up as along the way.
I would say they might hurt you, they just won't kill you.
Yeah, and having said that, I would suggest you get a book. It's Peterson's Field Guide to Poisonous Plants and Venomous Animals, or I might have that switched around. I don't know if you're familiar with the Peterson Field Guides or not, but they have field guides on like all sorts of different aspects of nature. Their book on poisonous plants and venomous animals is the thinnest one of all of those field guides. I mean, they had to scrounge to come up with enough information to fill a book. You know, they have anything in there that remotely anybody has any trouble with. You know, something like most people don't have any trouble with it, but there's somebody that reacts to this one, well, that's in the book. So it's a relatively small number of plants that you have to learn that are going to be bad for you. And if we find any of those along the way, we're going to point those out here. Okay, anything else before we go? Okay, so let's get loaded up. And our first stop is right behind Rick over here. Okay, if you don't already know this plant, this is plantain, the broadleaf variety, which is the good one. There's a narrow-leaf variety. It tends to be tougher, not as fun. This is both an edible and a medicinal. Okay, you can mix this with aloe vera, and that comes out really good. I think this has been mowed through here. A lot of these leaves look like they're cut.
Yeah.
You got another good one there. This is not native to North America. However, you're going to find it all over. The Indians call it white man's foot.
What about
Because everywhere the white man walked, this stuff started coming up.
What about this one?
Yep, that's one too. Notice the parallel veining. Like here's the middle vein, and then there's these other veins that are pretty much parallel. Okay, a lot of leaves don't have the parallel veining, they go out, right?
She's asking what about that one?
Yep, that's one too. Okay, so the parallel veining is a distinguishing characteristic of plantain. There is another rule among like pretty much all wild edibles. They say buds are best.
It's the right one.
Okay, like the young tender stuff is going to be better than the old tough stuff.
Don't eat it.
And so you can tell this color's a little lighter than the old leaves that are down closer to the ground. And so if I was going to be eating it, this is the kind of leaf I would look for. You know, not quite as dark color, but I don't want it really light because then it's not mature enough to have all the nutrients I want in it. But if I'm just trying to fill my stomach, I might use those anyway. But this is fairly nutritious. This is also medicinal. Again, the same type of thing like with aloe vera. In fact, mixing the two together works really good.
What
Did you say bee stings? You can use for bee stings.
Bee stings, yeah.
Scratches?
Pardon?
Scratches or something else?
Scratches and yeah. Okay, and again, this cooks up pretty good too.
It does?
You just kind of
Yeah,
mash.
or you can just eat them raw too. Anybody want this one?
I would eat.
Going once? Yeah, you got your own. Just make sure you got the right plant. You want it? There you go.
Can you eat it like this?
Yeah. Except this one here, you know, these right here people have been walking on, so I worry about how clean they are a little bit. But this plant, I've seen this all over the place here. You're blessed to have this growing all over. The last place we were at was the narrow leaf kind. No, it just doesn't taste as good.
Had some rain though.
Yeah, that helps. Okay, I'm going to head out that way and then down the road.
Liquid coming out there.
That one?
Okay, here's next stop. Told you we weren't going very far. What's this? How do you know it's a pine? Okay, pines are really good stuff. Okay, I'm going to tell you a lot of good things we can do with pines besides firewood. But first thing you need to know is how to make sure you got a pine.
The needles aren't bunched. So
There's little pine.
Okay, on this particular pine, this is kind of hard to see, so you might need to pick up a bunch of needles and look at it. But at the base of the needles, whoops, I just dropped it. Thank you. You got good eyes. At the base of the needles, there's a little wrapping. They call that a sheath. Okay? This particular one has 4 needles in it. Okay, there are pines with like 5 needles, I think is the most I've seen. 3 needles is really common. There's a lot of 2-needle pine. There's even some 1-needle pine. Okay, but even if it only has 1 needle, it still has that sheath wrapping at the base of the needles where it comes off of the stem. So make sure it has that, because there are other evergreens. You know, a lot of people think all the evergreens are pines. No, not true. In fact, there are some evergreens that are poisonous, and so you don't want to tangle with those. I'm just going to talk about pines today, so I don't give you information overload and you don't have to try to remember, did he say this or did he say that, right? Just talking about the pines. They all have the wrapping. Okay, so what can you do with pines? Pine needle tea, real high in vitamin C, all the other good stuff. Tastes pretty good too. Okay, if nothing else, you can do that. These younger needles like this, and these I wish were a little younger yet, but you see how they're shorter and a little lighter in color? Okay, those you can eat just straight. And I know I got some eager people here to try. Anybody want to try this? It's okay to eat. It might be a little bit tough already. Other than that, just tell the rest of the group what it's like. There you go.
And me?
You want some? Oh, you want some?
Yeah.
Okay, you're eating the old needles. Those are going to be tough for sure.
It tastes good.
It tastes good. Is it easy to chew up, or is it starting to get like eating paper?
It's starting to get like...
Starting to get like eating paper, yeah. There you go. Okay, so a little bit, you know, like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, these would have been better.
She wants one.
Yep, here it is. There you go.
Thank you. I want another one.
There you go. It'll start coming out. This stem comes out, and the whole twig is fairly soft and tender, and you can eat the whole thing. Okay, like on some pines that's bigger than others. Out west we have some pines, you know, this is like the normal twig size here. Out west we have some pines that are on thick twigs like big around as my finger. And so when that is coming out, I mean, you got to chunk a little bit of food there. So that's good.
What's the nutritional
I'm
value?
trying to read some more.
I have seen that information, but I don't remember it. I'm not a nutritionist, and so those numbers are just big numbers, and they get lost in my head. Yeah. I'm more worried about having something to eat rather than,
Why?
hopefully get enough of it and get nutrition taken care of that way.
Mom will kill me down here.
The other thing with the pines, all pines have pine cones. I'm seeing remnants of some around here. Looking for, here we go.
When
I'm gonna eat
when are we going to need this information? At what point?
Now, on,
a tree.
because you better go out and start practicing this stuff.
Gotcha. I just want
So when we flee to the mountains, you're ready. Okay, these pine cones, they call these scales, each of these things
Oh,
here.
these things get
Okay,
stuck.
so like I just pulled off one scale. At the base of each of the scales, you will see two little grooves. In each of those grooves, originally there was a pine nut.
Hi.
And all of the pines, just like all are edible, all the pine nuts are edible. They taste like the pine nuts you'd buy at the store. Some of them are like, fourth the size of a sunflower seed.
Ah,
Others are the size like the ones you could buy at the store. Even larger, a little bit. But all of the pine nuts from all of the pines are edible. Now this is a more seasonal thing. Okay, obviously this is an old one. There's nothing here anymore.
excuse me. That stuff gets stuck in my throat.
Oh no, you better go get a drink of water.
Hey, can I touch that little?
You can touch it. Don't eat it, because this isn't any good to eat anymore. Okay? So from the pines, okay, you got the needle sift going on, you got all the nuts are edible. But the real thing that you can get from any pine any time of year is the inner bark. What?
The cadmium layer.
The cambium layer, yes. The inner bark. And
It's sticky, watch out. It's,
oh,
I have stickiness on it.
if the thinner the twig, the thinner the cambium layer, the thinner the inner bark, the thicker the trunk, like we probably would get a 1/4 inch thick layer off of this. All right? I'm not going to tie into this because it'll make it ugly. But this is hanging over sooner or later. This is going to get trimmed off probably. So I'm going to go ahead
Pine.
and peel some. And maybe a few people will get to test it. Oh yeah.
My fish look it up like bacon.
They got me.
If you're harvesting pine bark from the tree, if you take a strip all the way around, because that's what you can get, right? You can't get the stuff that's way up there. You'll kill the tree if you take a strip of bark all the way around. So if you're working, if you need to get food from the tree and you don't want to kill the tree,
Eat it.
if you need it that bad, you cut down the tree and take all of it, right? But if you don't want to kill the tree, just take a strip of up and down. And that won't kill the tree. It'll heal, leave a scar there, but it won't kill the tree. Whereas if you go all the way around, you will. And I don't think I would go more than a 1/4 of the way around the tree. Maybe not even that much. So, yeah, I should just cut this off. Let me do that.
Jump into the pool and he was in there.
Okay, now you can see what I'm doing better. Okay, I'm peeling the outer bark off. Under the outer bark is this white kind of layer. See that? That's the inner bark.
That's the inner bark?
Yeah. This darker stuff is the outer bark. Now this has both inner bark and outer bark on it. Let me see if I can shave that off.
We need a good knife in our pants.
I have a good knife. Sorry?
Okay, so who wants to try this?
Me.
Okay, come and grab just the tip. Grab the tip, and then I will cut it off. Okay, grab just the tip. I will cut it off. Okay, who else wants to try this? Grab the tip, and I will cut it off.
She wants one. She wants one.
And pull some more out.
I've had some of this before.
Good. Grab just the tip.
It's like gum.
Yeah, it's very chewy.
Gianna.
Go ahead, grab it. Okay, got a little bit more here. Who wants some?
I want some.
Did you get some already?
You can eat that.
A little bit.
Here you go.
Hold it.
How much is
Whoops, grab the tip. Hold it tight.
Hold it tight.
Hold it tight so I can cut
Let me
it.
hold it for you then.
Yeah.
You can eat that.
Here.
You can eat that.
Here.
Eat it.
You want to eat that? Grab the tip. Just the tip. Don't grab the whole thing, just the tip. Okay, this is real chewy, but it works. Tastes like pine. What you can do, if you're harvesting quite a bit of this, is dry it and then grind it up and use it like flour. Okay?
Can use it like flour?
You can. Okay, I got one more piece here. Anybody want this?
Me.
Okay.
Can you make more of that?
Yeah, I can, but that's not what we're going to do. I mean, that's just one of the activities.
The Indians use rocks, grindstones.
Yeah, I can get some more. I want some.
No vitamins?
No vitamins?
No vitamins?
Can I have some?
No vitamins.
Okay.
Yes, vitamins, vitamin C.
Yeah.
Did you tell them that already?
Yeah.
Can I get one?
Here you go. Grab the tip.
Hold it tight.
Pine pitch.
Just say we've been on a hike, been playing with wild edibles, and let's say we found a whole bunch of something that's edible that we want to take with us. What are we going to put it in? How many of you have backpacks?
Talk about the dandelion.
That's a dandelion, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah. Dandelion, you can eat dandelion, all parts of the edible.
What's this? The scarf. Many different types of scarves. We started out carrying bandanas with us. Then they were so useful, we took 2 bandanas. Then we played with cravats for a while, which are essentially triangular bandages. Now I'm packing these things since they've come out. They call them coalition scarves. Since the Gulf War, these have become more popular. If you get one, make sure it's 100% cotton for several reasons. This is useful for so many different things. Towel, washcloth, improvised clothing. Because of the loose weave, it works as a mosquito net. Extra blanket layer. And what we talked about here, suppose we found a bunch of wild edibles that we want to carry with us. I'm not going to actually tie it together, but you get the picture. If I tie these 2 corners together, and then these 2 corners together, I'll just overlap them. We'll pretend they're tied. I have a bag with handles. Okay? Could carry a lot of food stuff in this.
Where do you buy the coalition stuff?
Oh, sometimes they're like Army surplus stores, you can get them. Otherwise, online. Okay, so we've gathered up a bunch of wild edibles. Bring them along with us. We've been hiking for a while. What's going to happen?
Thirsty.
Gonna get thirsty. That's right. What do we need to get some water to drink?
Water filter.
You can use that to filter.
Okay, so let's say we find a creek. And we come up to, is the creek water safe to drink? Probably not. So what do we need to do to purify it? Well, let's say we're going to boil it, okay? We could bring a filter, but the trouble with filters is sooner or later they all get plugged up. Then what? Which introduces the topic of sustainability. Okay, we talked this morning about how long we might be out in the wilderness. Okay, sooner or later that filter is going to get plugged up.
You can improvise filter with, if you had a fire, charcoal will help you to also make your own filters.
Okay, but you could also boil it if you have fire too, which might be quicker and easier than making a filter and then trying to pack that filter along with you if you're moving camp. So, in order to have water, here's where I'm introducing that way of thinking. In order to have water, we need what? We're going to boil it. We need a fire, and what else do we need? Some kind of a cook pot. Okay, again, fire and cook pot. Cook pot's pretty straightforward, also going to use that for cooking. Just for what it's worth, cook pot is one of the most valuable items in your survival kit. Don't really consider that a survival item, but it is. I mean, you use it every day pretty much at home. In order to have fire, what do we need? Okay, wood, but there's usually lots of wood out here in the woods. Okay, we got plenty of fuel, some kind of fire starter. Okay, so do you see the train of events here? We're thirsty. In order to have thirsty, we need water, we need to boil the water. In order to boil the water, we need fire in a cook pot. In order to have fire, we have to have fire starter. So we're like thinking back. Okay, based on our needs, what do we need in order to supply those needs? So far, we got a fire starter that we should be carrying with us and a cook pot we should be carrying with us. Okay? I'm going to turn all things over to Becky right now.
Okay, so one of the things that he was talking about with water, I'm going to just back up just a moment. You know, in order to, the best way to get the bacterial type stuff out of your water is by boiling. It works better than a filter, even a charcoal filter. But if you're removing chemical type stuff, then a filter works better than boiling. Boiling's not going to get that out. So it depends on where you're at, is what you're going to need. But if you don't got a filter, then you're going to have to boil it. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to make fire. You might want to kind of gather out this way more because my back is going to be this way. So what I'm going to show you is a bow drill fire. And to make a bow drill fire, we will need a fireboard. This one's been used a lot. This is made out of cedar. I'm going to need that log, sweetheart. And so this is, I used to do this on the ground. I'm getting too old to get down on the ground anymore, so I do it on a log. But this is a fireboard. And I got lots of...
And it only works with cedar wood.
No, that's not what I said.
Okay.
I said that is a piece of cedar wood. It'll work with other kinds of wood also, but mine happens to be cedar. You do want a wood that is soft enough you can press your thumbnail into. You don't want a really hard wood like an oak because... Pardon? Pine is fine. I wouldn't recommend pine, and the reason for that is that it has a lot of pitch in pine, and so it might get gummed up, might not work really well. I haven't actually used it, but that's what I've been told. Okay, this is my bow drill. You can also make a simple bow drill. Move that out of the way. Out of a stick like this. This is also a bow drill. Very simple. Ooh. I'm looking for my drill here. I'm gonna have to, that is a drill, but I'm gonna be using this drill right here. And I just need to fix my tip a little bit here. This one happens to be made out of Where'd my husband go? Mugwort. Jim, mugwort, dogbane. I'm sorry, meal fat. This is meal fat. I'm always getting my woods mixed up. I'm sorry. This is called meal fat. It grows where we come from, just like this, and I make my little, I love it for spindles. It works really good. But I could also make a spindle out of a piece of cedar. Here's one here. I've got several here actually. Or out of, I think that's the same as this one. But you basically want a soft wood and you want it carved into a circle. Yeah, that's another spindle.
If you have here, I would turn you loose with like your eastern cedar. And there are people who like the tulip poplar really well. I don't really like the tulip poplar from my personal experience with it, but there are those who like it really well that are,
Okay, so I will need my bow drill, a spindle, and a handhold. Now my handhold that I like the best happens to be an elk knee. And the reason I like it best is because I'm not actually drilling through the wood on this top side, so it doesn't take as much energy. I learned on one like this out of a piece of wood, but as you're drilling, you're using energy because it's drilling through the wood as well as down here. So with the elk knee, it's kind of lubricated and it doesn't happen that way. Don't worry, I didn't go out and kill an elk, for those that are worried about it. Our kids lived in Colorado for a very long time, which they do a lot of hunting in that area. And so the hunters knew that they liked to do primitive skills, and so they would bring them bones and they would bring them hides and all kinds of stuff so they could tan the hides and do all kinds of stuff. So that's what that is. Okay, and then you'll also need another small piece of wood or a dry leaf or something. I have this little piece of wood to catch your coal. So I'm going to just put that there to catch my coal with, like so. And while I'm thinking about it, I will need a helper. You.
Oh, wow. I wish I could.
So, if I wanted to actually make a fire, other than having a fire starter, what else are you going to need to make your fire?
Kindling.
Kindling. And even before kindling, you're going to need tinder. A tinder bundle. And so this is what I call a tinder bundle. And I've got lots of little fine stuff in here, and I'm going to put a little bit more fine stuff in here. Some of this I collected last weekend, and some of different places. I like something very fine to get it started. Okay, would you hold that just gently, like, no, gently, don't squish it. There you go. And I'm going to just shred a little bit more of this. This is the inner bark from a cedar that we got in, I think it's the same, in Georgia, when we were down there a couple of weeks ago in Somerville at some folks' place. Huh?
They grow up here too.
Yeah, well, this is where this one came from. And this is the inner bark, which makes very good tinder. But you need to have it kind of shredded up a little bit. So we're just kind of going to do that. Then put it right in here, make a little nest, okay?
Pine needles in there too? So one of pine needles?
There are some pine needles in the...
There are some pine needles. Oh, and I think I also have some, soap root top here too.
Oh, really?
Are you guys familiar with soap root?
They don't have it here.
They don't have soap root. Oh, that's too bad.
It's a West Coast thing.
It's a great plant. It comes in, it makes a big bulb, which gets real soapy. You can use it for washing, washes your hair, makes it so soft. But you can also cook it. It takes away the soapiness and you can eat it. So it's a great plant. And then it has this great stuff at the top, which you can use for making brushes and all kinds of cool stuff. Okay, so I want you to just kind of stand here and wait for me to get that ready, okay? Okay, so so now that we have all of our things to make a fire, we'll see if I'm capable to make one. So, oops, sorry. You want your spindle to be outside of your cord, not on the inside, not between your bow and your cord. My cord's gotten kind of twisted there a little bit. Okay, so I'm just going to put my leg up here and hold this with my foot. Put my handhold up there, and then I'm going to use my leg to brace my arm so that it doesn't shake all around. I'm going to try to use the full length of my bow to save a little energy.
See smoke.
Yeah, we don't really care about smoke right now. What we want to do is get a bunch of dust down in the bottom of our notch. If you can see the notch, you can kind of see it.
That's the business end of the whole deal.
And then I'm going to put on a little speed and a little pressure and see if we can get a coal and pray for fire. And I think we have it.
Yay.
Okay, now at this point you don't want to hurry too fast. You want your coal to kind of build and soak up all that dust around it. You can see I'm out of breath. It's a little harder than it looks. So now we're going to put this in our tinder bundle here. Okay, hold it. No, don't let go. Hold it. Move that hand out of the way and blow it. You want to hold it above your face so that the fire doesn't come up into your face. And you want to hold it so if the wind's blowing the smoke back at you, you might want to turn around. Blow a little longer and harder. Uh-oh, not too hard. Don't blow it out. I think it went out. Okay, so we got to do it again. It's okay. It's not your fault. You did a fine job. Let's pull this around there a little bit more. I had trouble with this tinder bundle. Did you pray for fire?
He wants to try it.
What? You want to do the drill? Okay.
See if I can get him some.
Okay. Have you used a drill before?
Yes.
All right. Good. Okay. We have a volunteer to help us. Oh, here. Let me.
Everybody's volunteered in our group. Oh, that's good. I'm glad you guys have been practicing.
Can I use some more?
Well, that one's kind of gone through, so that one's almost. So we almost need to make a new notch, but.
And you just spoke about which was going to be tested individually for the old one. Gotta start somewhere.
Not as easy, huh?
I haven't used a bone before.
Try to keep your spindle straight up and down. Oh, I see your problem. See how your spindle is in between your bow and your line? You want it the other way. You want your spindle outside. There you go.
So this one is the top?
Yeah, you want this outside, not in here. You want it out here.
Okay.
My spindle's getting a little short too. I need to start a new one. Don't press down so hard, you get your rhythm. Get your rhythm going first. Don't press down so hard. Put your hand against your knee, your leg. Longer strips. Use your whole bow.
There you
So this one will go on the top, right?
Yeah, that's the top one.
So you can make it spindles?
You got your spindle on the outside. Good. All right.
Yeah, she's made lots of spindles.
Where did you get your bowl?
That particular one, my niece made it and gave it to her. That's a special one. Becky uses it. You can make the bow out of just about anything.
Don't press down quite so hard. Brace your arm against your, there you go. And just fill your thing with dust right now. Don't worry about speed and pressure.
Keep it up, keep it up.
There, good. Those spindles work really easy, mule fat, so.
When do you know when to go hard?
More pressure.
When you get your notch full, then you want to go harder.
That's full. Go for it.
Okay, go ahead, a little more, just go faster, just go faster.
Kind of changes sound when you.
Yeah, I think you've got it already. You've already got it. If you see, yeah, you've got it. You've already got a call, so you can stop.
All right.
That's all right there.
Yeah, you got it. So,
Yay.
What you're looking for is smoke coming out of the pile itself.
Great going.
That's the most beautiful coal ever.
okay, put it in their little
My
nest.
wife.
I'm the cheerleader.
Yay.
Where there's smoke, there's fire.
Hold it up above your face. I don't want you to get your face burned. All right, give him a hand. You can put it in the fire pit. And if we were actually making a fire, we would want to have some kindling ready. Because if you wait till now to do it, it's not going to happen. And then some stuff getting bigger and bigger and bigger to make your fire. So. So, don't leave. I might use you some more. Okay, so in my pack, I carry more than one way to make fire.
Only one way?
More than one way. The fire drill works great if that's all you have, but you can say it also takes a lot of energy. And the wood that I have, the different special Pacific boards I've collected over the years, I know those make good fire. But if I'm out here in the woods and I have to just gather something at the spur of the moment, I may not be able to find the same wood. I'm going to have to find something else to experiment with till I get a good fire. And some woods work good and some woods don't work so good. And so it might take me a while to get a fire made. Plus I'd have to make my bow, carve out my hole here and make a notch. A lot of other things that I have to do. And if it's at night and I need a fire because I'm cold and I'm wet and I'm tired, I might cry. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have more than one method to make fire in my pack. And so, you want to gather us another tinder bundle? And so this is my favorite fire making method. This is a steel striker. This is for a flint and steel kit. And this is a rock, okay? And this is some charred cloth. Now in my fire kit, I also have in here some fat wood. Anybody know what fat wood is?
Pine tree. Sap, yeah.
Okay, it's wood that's saturated with pine pitch. A lot of times you can find that in the woods where you've seen a tree that's gone down or has died and the sap has have gone to the bottom of the tree and it'll be down at the bottom. Well, this will burn even if it's wet. I can light it like a candle. But if I'm having wet conditions, I can shave some of that off and help it through my fire starter. I also always keep a dry tinder bundle in my kit in case there's no dry tinder when I'm trying to make my fire. So, and then if I get a fire made, I'm gonna dry out some more tinder by that fire and replace it right away so I have some for next time, okay? So in here I have charred cloth. This is 100% cotton. You can also use linen. But you can also use what we call punk wood. That's like that dead spongy wood that you'll find out in the forest. And you can burn that in your tin and use that for your fire starter. Okay, I have some fire cloth, but this method has been used for a very long time, and it's sustainable. You heard my husband using that word. It's sustainable in the woods, so it's never going to quit on me. This striker is not going to wear out. I could probably use it. My daughter could use it. My granddaughters could use it, and it's still good for some more people. It's not going to quit. A lot of people like those ferro rods now. Those are great, but they're not going to last very long, and then it's going to all be gone. I also carry a lighter in my pack for when I can't get a fire. I might need it. But I would save that for specifically when I can't get a fire with anything else or for an emergency. You guys ready with the tinder bundle there? Yes. Okay, so we're gonna make a spark here on my charred cloth and make a fire.
A little loose.
Yeah, make it loose. Otherwise it's... Okay.
That easy.
Okay, you need to kind of stand up so people can see. And we're going to blow that to flame.
Becky, where can you get one of those?
My husband made this. I'll talk about that in a few minutes. Some of our tinder, I'm afraid, has been a little less than desirable. When we were down in Florida, it got very damp because it was so humid. We're used to dry California, so we're having to dry out tinder here.
Wait, get off of the fire.
Okay, we got fire. Yay!
Kid, don't put anything, and I'm gonna.
I think the kids are wanting a fire, huh?
Put a little green stuff there.
Wait. Here, try a few of those. I'll give him a few of my dried pine needles.
That rock that they used for that time was just a regular rock. Just something that's gonna cost.
It's called a flint and steel set, but it does not have to be flint. This is just a hard, glassy type rock. A lot of times when I'm walking along, I'll have a striker in my pocket. I go, oh, that rock looks like it might work. And so I will maybe reach down and pick up a rock and see if it'll make a spark. No, throw that one away. Okay, but maybe, let's see if we can find a good rock. That's what I just used, something to look at that way. Okay, on the other hand, here's a nice little piece of quartz.
It's not glassy at all.
I can see a spark.
You can see that one makes sparks.
Right.
Yeah, don't take my rock away. Make sure I don't lose that. And here is something else that looks like it might work. Let's see. No, that one doesn't work.
Can I get one of those?
No, that's no good either. Not that. That's no good. This one works. This is quartz. See the sparks? That works.
There's a bunch around here.
We usually bring a bunch of these kits with us and sell them to those that people want them. Of course, not on Sabbath. We were in the process of moving before we came, and so we did not have time to make any kits for y'all, and I really apologize. But you can go online and find flint and steel kits. So, what?
She's asking.
Flint and steel. This is the steel. It's made out of carbon steel. Jim makes them out of garage door springs in his blacksmith shop. And actually, I've made them before too, but he usually makes that, and I make the rest, put the rest of the kit together. So
I think I'd rather that method than the bow.
yeah, it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier than a fire drill. Now, there's another kind of fire drill which a lot of people use, which I will tell you about, but I won't demonstrate it because I can't get fire that way. But I'll tell you about it. It's called just a fire drill, not a bow drill. Always take good care of your kit. Don't leave your stuff laying around. It'll disappear. We've had people that, we've even had classes where we had to make their own strikers at our blacksmith shop and put their own kits together. They no more can get it made the first time using it. They get so excited they get their coal, they drop it on the ground, and then later they can't find it. It's gone. So take good care of your equipment. Okay, so if you have a long spindle like this, you can actually make a fire this way.
Not too much, because it'll get roaring.
Twirling that. My hands are too tender. I cannot do that kind of fire. My daughter does it. My son-in-law does it. My niece does it. Her girls do it. But I can't do that. Jim has done it, but
I'm out of practice.
he doesn't want to do it. So, but anyway, it's a fire drill. You go like this, and you also have to press down as you do it. It's kind of a special little way to do that. But that's a fire drill, and if you're really interested in fire drills, I suggest you get some stuff and practice. In fact, any kind of fire. If you don't know how to make fire, if you just watch a YouTube video and think, okay, now I know how to make fire, believe me, you don't know. If you can't make a fire in the warm afternoon sun in your own backyard, you're not going to be able to make it up in the mountains, in the dark, in a storm. So you got to practice at home.
Okay, remember we started making a list, okay, of things that we would want to keep in our pack. What do we have on the list so far? Anybody remember? Cook pot. What else? Fire starter. Anything else?
Something to carry in the scarf.
Scarf. Anything else?
Knife.
Oh, a knife, yes. Now, I have to share with you about the knife. Okay, there is a whole group of sharp-edged cutting tools. And so when I think knife, and when you think knife, I want you to think of this whole category of sharp-edged cutting tools. Let me demonstrate. Because not only do you need a knife, you need a few other things. And to introduce that whole topic, let me introduce you to a digging stick. Okay, this is your primitive multi-tool. Okay, I meant to talk about this when we were talking about wild edibles, but we didn't really see anything we wanted to dig up except maybe the dandelion root. It's called a digging stick because it's used to dig up wild edible plants. But it's also used as a mallet, you know, like to hammer or beat something. Has a ring around here so I can put my cook pot in and out of the fire, use this end as a poker, and so on. The list goes on and on. There's pry bar, beat off the boogeyman, whatever. Anyway, it just has a lot of different uses. Think about what we would need in order to make this. Okay, here's a branch where it's growing on. What do we need in order to make this? The knife, but also, the axe to chop the point. What else? A saw to cut it to the initial shape. Okay, so knife includes all of those. Okay, there's actually like 3 other ones. There's the knife, and then there's the saw, and like an axe or a lightweight axe or hatchet, and maybe a machete or bush knife type thing. Okay? No one person's probably going to want to carry all of those. Okay, since I'm frequently leading trips where nobody else has anything, I carry a saw all the time and either a hatchet or a machete. In the demonstration pack I have both, but right now. Anyway, you get the picture there. You need all of those.
Water bottle.
Bottom line is you need something like the knife that you can do fine carving and meal preparation with, and you also need like the chopping tool or the saw for more serious wood shaping. It's like I could cut this with my knife, but it's going to take me a long time. Saw does it really quickly and way more efficiently. So you want both of those in your pack. Okay, but like I said, there's 3 different things. There's the saw, the machete, and the hatchet. With the people that you are hiking with regularly, if you can kind of spread those out among the group. That way, when you get to camp or when you're out in the woods doing something, you have all those representatives available for you, even though, so you don't have to carry each of them. So anyway, when we say knife, we mean that whole category and the tools that it'll take to keep them sharp. Because if it's not sharp, it doesn't cut it. Okay. Let's continue on in our hike a bit. Okay, we've stopped, made fire, boiled some water. What else could we do with a pot of boiling water? Cook some food, all right? So we'll add an initial supply of food to our pack. Okay, it's not enough to last till Jesus comes. We're not trying to carry that much. 3 days worth seems appropriate from a lot of different sources, one of them being Spirit of Prophecy. And so we'll put some food in our pack also. And so now we're thinking about spending the night. Okay, what are we going to want to spend the night? Shelter. Some kind of shelter. Now we're going to do a class in this. Also going to do a class some more in the knife stuff too. But I'm kind of doing the overview right now. We were on a survival trip and we were building our shelters, and one of my friends who was on the trip with made the observation. He says, one way or the other, you got to do the work. And what he meant was, when you get to camp, you're going to need a shelter, unless the weather is just super nice. But under most situations, you're going to need a shelter. One way or the other, you got to do the work. Either you're going to have to carry something in with you to make the shelter, or you're going to have to build a shelter from natural materials once you get there. And what we realized from that observation, and have played with since, okay, it's easier to carry in a tarp to make a shelter, all right, than it is to make a shelter from natural materials. Now around here you have an abundance of vegetation, and so there's usually plenty of materials to make the shelter with. Where I am in the arid west, frequently we've gone places and there hasn't been enough materials to make these shelters with. And so that emphasized for us the importance of bringing a tarp as well. Now if you're going to make a shelter, again, we're going to show how to do this in another class. But making a tarp shelter, if you're going to make a tarp shelter, what do you need to hook the tarp to your frame? Okay, yeah, rope, or we call it cordage. That's what primitive skills and bushcraft people call it. Cordage is everything from like thread to rope. Okay, need some kind of cordage to tie it up with. So we're going to add a tarp and cordage. To our list. Okay, let's go back just a little bit. We got some water boiling, so to purify it, how would we want to carry that water if we were going to continue hiking? We could carry it in the cook pot, but that's not a very efficient way to do it, right? Take a water bottle, simple water bottle. Need to put that on the list. One other thing that we've completely overlooked so far, and we tend to overlook it because it's so common, because you all have it with you right now, and that's our clothing. Okay, that's an important survival kit item. I mean, it's not in your kit necessarily, but it's an important survival item nevertheless. And when we're talking survival, especially adequate clothing. Okay, statistically, they have found that whether or not people actually live through a survival situation or not depends on whether they started out that situation with adequate clothing. Statistically. So it's important that we have adequate clothing when we go into the woods. And that's going to vary a little bit from season to season. And I'm not going to get into the details there, but it's definitely worth thinking and not overlooking. Going back to our shelter that we built. When we actually crawl in for the night, what else are we going to want? Okay, some kind of bedding, maybe a blanket or a sleeping bag. Sleeping bag's just a glorified blanket anyway. I'm just going to call it bedding, general. Something extra to wrap up in at night when it gets colder. So, we have a whole list of things here to carry, bring in with us. Imagine trying to carry this all hiking down the trail. Not going to work. What else are we going to want? A backpack to put it in. We're just going to call it a pack, some kind of a pack. And that basically completes our list. Now let's play with this a little bit more. Let's go back to our survival priorities. Shelter, water, health concerns, fire, food. We need all of these things in order to stay alive. Okay, we probably won't limit ourselves to these things, but these are the main items that we need to be sure and have. Based on this list, there is an expanded list of actual equipment item categories that we need in order to provide ourselves with these things. For example, there's 3 different types of shelter that we need to concern ourselves with. What do you think the first one is? Our clothing. And footwear. And just having said that, please understand that your shoes are the most important item of clothing. That's what enables you to get around to get everything else you need. Okay, we talked about bedding. Something extra to wrap up in at night, and then structural shelter. Okay, water. You need some way to carry water. I'm just going to call a water bottle. Health concerns, we have a whole list of hygiene items. Things like soap and toothbrush and so on. Toilet paper. To make fire, we need a fire starter. For food, we need the food and the cook pot and utensils. And beyond this, there are 4 tools categories. We're using the word tools kind of in an anthropological sense. Some of you are old enough to remember many years ago the scientists got all excited when they saw monkeys sticking a twig down a termite hole. Termites would attack the twig, monkey pulls out the twig and eats the termites. Okay, monkey can't eat the twig, or it can, but it's not going to get good nutrition from it. But that twig it can use to get to something it couldn't otherwise get to. Okay, that twig is a tool. And so we have 4 main tool categories that we need. First one is, guess what? Knife. Again, talking about all that different categories of sharp edge cutting tools. Yeah, actually here I'm going to put cutting and chopping tools. Second category is digging tools. Third one is cordage. Cordage and fasteners, different types of fasteners. And the last one is containers. Various types of containers to carry stuff in, keep our stuff organized in. We're going to talk more about this in the other classes, but what I wanted you to do is to see the similarities between these 2 lists. Okay? So we got adequate clothing. Well, I should start at the top, huh? Okay, so we got cutting and chopping. We got cook pot. We got fire starter. We got scarf, which figures into the clothing. And also the hygiene items. We got food. We have tarp for structural shelter. We got cordage. We got water bottle. Got adequate clothing, again. We got bedding and a pack for container. About the only thing we don't have here is a digging stick, which we could easily make from what we could gather if we have the right tools. Again, we're going to talk about this list some more. We'll talk about this list some more, but it's almost the same list. Okay, these are the things that we need in order to keep ourselves alive. Okay, please don't believe the myth that's out there that if you know the right techniques, you can survive on nothing. Okay, we've done survival classes and give people a detailed list of what to bring. They show up and they don't bring half the stuff. Why didn't you bring it? Well, I didn't think I'd need it. This is a survival class after all. Or we had one person who went to one of our classes and they were telling somebody else, oh, it wasn't really survival. They were talking all about equipment. Okay, we need these things. One way or the other, you got to do the work. Okay, if you don't bring it with you, you're going to have to make it out in nature. For example, if you don't have a knife, cutting and chopping tool, you're going to have to go out there and find a rock that you can break and make a sharp edge that you can use for a knife, because you need the knife. Okay, if you don't have bedding, you're going to have to find something that you can weave together to make some kind of a blanket mat, and so on down the list. Now, it's worth knowing how to do all that, but that's a huge huge pile of stuff to learn how to do. Okay, for the rest of us, we'd be way wiser to bring this list of stuff with us in the first place. And we'll talk more about that this evening. So, just before we dismiss, let's go back to this. What's it say? Wise people foresee trouble coming. Okay, we know we're going to the wilderness. We studied about it in the prophecies this morning. We know we're going to the wilderness. We know we're going to do these things. And so what are wise people going to do? Bring them along. Be prepared. Okay, wise people foresee trouble coming and take some action to avoid that trouble. Okay, foolish people, they're going to keep going and they're not suffering. Let me tell you a story. Should have told you this at the beginning of the hike. Well, I'll tell you the first part now. I mean, the whole thing now. I know of 3 groups that this has happened to. Okay, all in the Southern California area within like a 120-mile radius. 3 groups of Adventists that have gone out on a Sabbath afternoon hike and ended up spending the night when they weren't planning to do that at all. I'm sure if I know of 3 groups that that's happened to just in that small area, it's happened many times all over the place. Okay? And I think in those experiences, God is trying to teach the people that are there some very important lessons. I want to tell you about one of this times. A group of Adventist friends and relatives went on a Sabbath afternoon hike, parked the cars here. There's kind of this mountain range with a peak. They hiked up to the top of the ridge, walking along, went to the peak, hanging out a bit, saw the sun starting to set. We better get back to the cars. So they head back down to the cars. Partway down on this ridge, there was another trail that went that way. Somehow they got on that trail instead of heading back to the cars. They thought they were heading downhill, thought they were heading to the cars, instead they're going deeper and deeper into the woods. Finally they get, so far it's getting dark. We better just spend the night because we're lost. If we just wander around in the dark, who knows what's going to happen. So we'll wait till morning and figure out what's going on. Well, during the night they figured out where they must have went wrong. In the morning they found their way out. But early in the morning I get this call from one of the moms. Hey, they didn't come back last night. Can you go look and find them? Well, fortunately they already sent the sheriffs in with the dogs and they found them every time by the time we got there. Talking to the group afterwards. In this group, there was a 9-year-old boy. He had his emergency pack with him, little belt pouch. That's what he called it, his emergency pack. I don't know what all he had in there, but he had some matches in there. Because that 9-year-old boy had his emergency pack with matches, they were able to spend the night around a fire. Okay, imagine the difference, spending the night in the cold, dark woods versus spending the night in the cold, dark woods with a fire. That's a huge difference. All because a 9-year-old boy brought some matches. None of the adults had anything. I challenge you to be that 9-year-old boy. Amen. Okay? And that story focuses on fire, all right? It could have been any of these things. Could have been any of them. Okay? Be the person that's equipped.
I think he had a little bit of food too.
Maybe.
At least the children got some.
Yeah.
Food. The rest of the adults did.
Last thing I want to show you. Let's say this together. I kind of messed it up because I wanted to make a point, but Wise people foresee trouble coming and avoid it, but foolish people keep going and suffer. Yeah. Okay, watch. That gives us the second verse to the song.
Jim, back up so people can see it. The lines from the equipment to the...
Don't thank me. God gave it to me. What? Can I move the backpack? Oh, yes. Sorry. You're welcome to come up here and take a better picture afterwards, too. Okay, so let's sing the song. Then the second verse. Wise people foresee trouble coming and avoid it. Wise people foresee trouble coming and avoid it, but foolish people keep going and suffer. But foolish people keep going and suffer. Proverbs 22 verse 3. Proverbs 22 verse 3. Water bottle, cook pot, fire starter, tarp and cordage. Water bottle, cook pot, fire starter, tarp and cordage. Adequate clothing, bedding, food pack, knife and scarf. Adequate clothing, bedding, food pack, knife and scarf. Always keep them in your pack. Be sure to keep them in your pack, because wise people foresee trouble coming and avoid it. Wise people foresee trouble coming and avoid it, but foolish people going and suffer. But foolish people keep going and suffer. Proverbs 22 verse 3. Proverbs 22 verse 3. Be the equipped, wise version, as in the parable of the 10 virgins, okay? That is prepared to serve. Let's have prayer, and then we'll close. Father, thank you for the activities we were able to do this evening. May we determine to prepare ourselves so that we can serve others and be a blessing to ourselves in the process. Continue to bless this program and all of the brothers and sisters here as we share and learn together. That we'll be able to implement all of these things into our lives. I pray in Jesus' name, amen.